Hi, my name is Estefy, and I'm going to tell you the story about how I found out I have narcolepsy. First, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm originally from Ecuador. I was born in Quito. My dad was a general in the Ecuadorian army, and my mom was an economist. Growing up, my parents really emphasized the value of an education, especially my mom. To her, getting a good education was the key to becoming an empowered woman. So when I was 12 years old, we moved to the US because my parents wanted better educational opportunities for me and my brother, and my mom also wanted to pursue a master's degree. My mom's passion for education has always inspired me. She even got her PhD in bilingual education 2 years ago, and I was so proud of her. So growing up with her as an inspiration, I also grew to love school. And when I was 18 years old, I decided that I wanted to become a doctor. So I was fortunate enough to go to Princeton for college, where I was a pre-med and I studied molecular biology. Then I was accepted to Northwestern Feinberg School of Medicine for medical school. My dream was to become a neurosurgeon. Thinking back to my first few months of medical school, I was just so happy. There was no place I'd rather be. And people kept asking me, is it hard? And my answer was always yes, extremely so, but I love it. But then, around the first half of my first year, I started having trouble concentrating on studying, especially memorizing. And if you've ever been to medical school, you know how crucial memorizing is, because there's a ton of information to learn and very little time to learn it in. And back in undergrad, I used to be the kind of person who could memorize something and say it back to you almost word for word, so I hadn't been worried. But suddenly, I was having trouble getting stuff to stick, and I wasn't sure why. I even thought, maybe my brain is just getting older. I also started feeling sleepy during lectures. I remember sitting in lecture and being not so sleepy that I would actually fall asleep, but sleepy enough that I couldn't pay attention to the professor for more than a few minutes. But then again, these were 8 a.m. classes, so I figured maybe I'm just not a morning person. In the spring, I failed my first exam during my cardiology block. I remember staring at the test, question after question, and just not being able to recall the symptoms for the disease. It was like trying to solve this giant puzzle where some of the pieces were missing, and the ones that I had, I just couldn't put together. When I found out I failed, I was devastated. I remember crying that night while my friends were trying to make me feel better, and I even started thinking, maybe I don't belong here after all. You have to understand, I've been a straight A student my whole life, and I had never failed an exam. And the worst part was that I didn't understand why. In the end, I just blamed myself for not studying hard enough. So I regrouped, went back, looked up study strategies, and tried to study harder. But at the same time, the fatigue was getting worse. At first, I just started drinking more and more cups of coffee, but by my second year, I was ordering energy drinks in bulk. I remember one time drinking an entire energy drink and then proceeded to fall asleep for 3 hours anyway. Still, it was so easy to dismiss this as normal. I even told my friends about it, and we all just kind of laughed. I mean, all medical students are sleep deprived, right? By the spring of my second year, I was sleeping 11 to 12 hours and taking a 3-hour nap on top of it. This is when I finally realized, there's something wrong. And at the time, I thought it might be a side effect from some medications that I was taking. So I talked to my doctor to try to change the medications around, but there was barely any change. And after several months of just switching my medications, my doctor finally stopped and told me, I think there's something else going on here. I really think you should see a sleep specialist. When he said that, I didn't really know how to feel about it. I felt like the sleep doctor would just lecture me about good sleep habits and nothing would come out of it. But I guess I had tried everything else, so I thought, why not? It took several months to see the sleep doctor, and when I did, he immediately recommended that I do a sleep study. When I went back to see him for the sleep study results, he told me, "You have narcolepsy." My mind went blank. I knew there should be a lot of important questions I should be asking, but I just couldn't think of any.